Hello and welcome to Insurance Ireland InsurTech Bytes. Thank you for joining us today. We have a great lineup and we really look forward to welcoming Moira Murdock, the new CEO of Insurance Ireland, and bringing you some InsurTech stories from around the world and some closer to home. So let's kick off with a quick look back at our last event in February. So earlier on, I had a chance to sit down with Moira Murdock, the new CEO of Insurance Ireland, to hear a little bit more about her thoughts on insurance, InsurTech, and also her plans. So now I'd just like to welcome Moira Murdock.
Thanks very much, Alan. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I grew up in Newry. I'm from Newry, County Down, many years ago. I went to school in Newry and then on to college in Belfast. I studied in Queen's mechanical engineering. It was unusual at the time for a girl to go off and do engineering, but something I have no regrets about and really made the right choice there. I grew up in a house full of lads, 5 brothers, no sisters, so that's where I probably got the draw for technical engineering type subjects, and I was always treated as an equal among the boys at home, and then got my first job in what was Shorts in Belfast, Bombardier, the aircraft manufacturer. Worked there for a couple of years before heading south of the border to Team Aer Lingus as an aircraft systems engineer. I moved to Bus Éireann at a time they too had a major tragedy. People may be familiar with the Kentstown crash, where 5 schoolgirls lost their lives in a terrible crash back in 2005. And obviously there had to be a lot of soul searching and a look at what caused the crash and how did it happen. I became the Chief Operating Officer then after a few years within Bus Éireann. A very different side of the business, very much front facing with the customer and the consumer. So getting a different flavour of the bus operations there than it was when I was in the actual garages and the maintenance side of the house, but very interesting. And obviously transport, as you can tell, played a significant role within my whole career. And I joined the Road Safety Authority in 2014. I'm proud of the work that was done on the road safety strategy, the collaboration that we had with the other stakeholders such as the guards, such as the Transport Infrastructure Ireland, the Health and Safety Authority, all of the stakeholders that were involved in ensuring Ireland raised our game in road safety. New to Insurance Ireland, yes, Alan, but I had been in touch with them and had worked with them in the past, so I was very much aware of the representation Insurance Ireland provided for the industry. I had dealt directly with a number of the big insurers as well in different campaigns that we had in the past. So, you know, I wasn't immune to the public perception of insurance. First one, obviously, to be a meaningful part of the solution to the cost of insurance in Ireland, without a doubt. Secondly, to make sure that the insurance sector gets the representation it deserves and that we are recognised as one of the significant employers and foreign direct investment sources for Ireland and Ireland Inc. And thirdly, probably more personal, but I also would love to be part of the solution to some of the gender issues that the insurance sector is recognised for, not just in terms of the actual makeup of the workforces and the senior positions within this sector, but also areas such as the gender pension gap that we have that we need to address, and we need to have a solution going forward. Yes, I am tech savvy, happy to say. Hard to keep up with all the innovations and new apps that are coming out, but I would like to think I'm up there and staying in touch. The whole insurance sector has to adapt and adapt quickly to recognising the changing needs of consumers, and I think that's where the techs, the InsurTech and the insurance sector come in. Technology can solve problems in every sector of life. I certainly learned that from the Road Safety Authority. The innovations and improvements in vehicle technology, in infrastructural technology have all led to safer roads. Likewise, with insurance, technology can help identify the underlying causes of incidences or accidents in life, changes in lifestyles. It is all about trying to gather and compile and understand data, this is where technology comes in, whether it's through telematics, whether it's through wearable technology, whether it's through phone technology. Technology really is the key to identifying trends and underlying causes and solutions as well. Well, really, we are in our infancy in InsurTech in this country. What I'm hoping to achieve today is to obviously raise the awareness with the attendees here today. I'm hoping that we cultivate new relationships. I'm hoping that the participants actually make contacts and come up with possibilities. It's all about possibilities in terms of partnering with insurers to see if there's solutions out there that they can increase their product offering, that they can introduce current and relevant solutions for consumers. So we have a myriad of participants here today, all interested in developing further the whole InsurTech landscape in Dublin. And I think what we want to do today is platform the opportunities to demonstrate that we are open for business and that we are really keen to increase the whole InsurTech sector in Dublin and in Ireland.
Thanks so much, Moira. Let's get going, but just before we do, you'll see in the highlights package, we met in the event in February with Michael Flanagan from Xtract360, who had some pretty big news last week. We'd just like to invite him to say a few words. So, hi, Michael.
Thanks, Mayne. Yeah, so we're delighted to announce that we signed a multi-year license agreement with Axon in North America. So yeah, big milestone for the business and really happy about it.
And I guess that brings you on to a whole next phase, which you were hoping for last time we met. So what advice would you have for people watching again, attending today, who are trying to, make InsurTech happen in Dublin?
It takes time, but just keep persisting. One of the biggest lessons we learned is that we were chasing so many opportunities, but what we really found is that when we focused really heavily on the insurers that wanted to move forward, things happened, so stop chasing lots of different balls and just focus on the ones that want to move, and it'll happen quicker.
Fantastic news, Michael. Really, we're delighted for you. I'm sure everybody here is. We hope you'll stay involved. We'd love to see you again at some stage and track your progress. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mayne.
Great stuff. So I'm going to hand over now to Ben, who's going to introduce you to Trov.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the InsurTech event today. It's my great pleasure to welcome Ed Axson, the Global Head of Business Development for Trov Insurance Solutions. Trov powers digital insurance solutions in the finance, insurance and retail world, enabling us to live the lives we are currently living.
Ed, you're very welcome. Great to see you.
Thanks very much for having me. Looking forward to having a meaningful discussion. It's great to be talking to people on the island of Ireland for a change.
Good stuff, Ed. Do you want to tell us where you're coming to us from today?
So I'm actually based in Belfast. I moved back to Belfast almost 2 years ago. We're great. Has been a very positive thing for COVID, given we've plenty of space around us. So I'm based there at the moment. Pre-COVID, I think last year I did over 100 flights. So the great thing is I haven't had to do that. So I've been able to spend some great time with my family. I'm not too sure they think that's great though.
Excellent. So do you want to tell us a little bit about Trov, how you got involved, and tell us what Trov is?
So Trov is an insurance technology business. I have been at Trov about 4 years, and I got involved really because one of our early co-founders is a guy called Mark Dowds, who is actually from Belfast as well, and him and I went to school together many, many years ago in Belfast. And I was working in the marketing world in London. Trov were launching in London, and he asked me would I be interested in joining them. And at that point I said to him, Mark, I know nothing about insurance. And he said, good, we're an insurance technology business. And I said, you know, I've been friends for 30 years. And he said, well, that's a good thing in my opinion. So here I am. 4 years on, I know lots more about insurance. I still wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I've much greater respect for the insurance industry.
Excellent. So you said Trov is in the InsurTech space. So do you want to tell us a little bit exactly what that is?
So Trov's about 8 years old actually, and started life as a, you know, at Trov as in treasure trove. Could you digitalize everything you own? Could you have an inventory of everything you own and then put a value in that? And we quickly found out that there was a gap in the ownership of things and therefore the insurance of things. So we started life as a B2C on-demand insurance product for the stuff that you really love. And I suppose we like to say we were the sort of godfathers of on-demand insurance. So our platform has the ability to dynamically calculate risk using new data, old data, and really apply a cost to that risk. So that was how we started life.
Tell us a bit more, maybe to give us a specific example of a solution that you've provided to a specific customer.
So if you take the platform, we actually deliver solutions in two areas. So we have a mobility business which delivers right sizing of insurance for emerging mobility, emerging risks. So things like car share, ride share, bike share, scooter share, peer-to-peer, where the organizers or the program operators really require an insurance product or insurance solution that utilize the data they have. So in a sense, if you're a car share program, what you really need is insurance that is contextual. So when a car is not rented and parked, in our world that has a different risk profile than one that's moving. So we create risk profiles and right size the insurance by bringing leading carriers to the table with us.
And most of your business right now is in the US, is it?
No, actually, our two biggest enterprise customers are one in the UK and with Lloyd, and then we have a very modern personal auto product live in Australia with Suncorp, where you have the consumer has the ability to personalize their insurance product. And when I say personalized, so they can really build a product that's relevant for them. But the second part of that product allows them to give us more access to their data, and we start rewarding people. So for example, we reward people for not driving, would you believe? So the insurance company take part in that reward. So we can, and that's all done through a native app with embedded telematics on the phone.
You mentioned scooters there. I'm sure based in Belfast, you're watching what's going on in the UK and emerging discussions as well in Ireland about scooters. Tell us what your thoughts of that are on the impact of InsurTech on that sector.
Well, I think in our opinion, what lockdown or COVID has done is made scooters a reality. You know, I think if you'd have spoken to many of our underwriting partners 18 months ago, I remember a very, very big reinsurer who will remain nameless telling me, what would I ever want to insure those for? Why, you know, the risk is so big and yet the premium's so small. I think that's not the case now. I think people, the drive for sustainable transport solutions and the fact that a lot of people don't want to get on public transport, they're a viable option. And I think the insurance industry now has to look closer at it.
Oh, interesting point. You mentioned at the beginning, and I have some questions coming in. We might go to those in a second. You came, from outside of insurance. Just as a matter of interest, what were your thoughts when you started working in insurance about, particularly about technology? That's what we're here talking about today, about technology and insurance and where we're at as an industry.
So I think they all want to innovate. I think they're getting much better at it, but there's definitely still an element of incumbents by technology. You know, for somebody like Trov to do something quick, it's relatively simple. For a big insurance company, you know, of course it's going to be difficult. You know, and often what I have learned in 4 years, putting the word speed and insurance in the same sentence is not something you can really do. So, but I've really enjoyed it. I have to say, I what I know now compared to then, but there's so many smart people in this insurance.
And I hope some of them on this call today.
Obviously.
So with that, actually, there's some smart people. I see some questions coming in. So we're going to pop and check out some questions, if that's okay with you, Ed.
No problem, yeah. Hopefully I can answer them.
So the first question in, Susan Gibson from Irish Life.
Hi, Ed. Nice to see you, and a really interesting discussion there. I guess
likewise, Susan.
One of the questions we might have is, we really want to kind of encourage a more vibrant InsurTech community in Ireland. Have you any thoughts about what Ireland needs to do to attract InsurTech?
I think it's a brilliant question, because very soon we'll go live with our first scooter insurance program in Ireland, and I was hoping it would be announced before this call, but I think Ireland's really forward thinking in the programs. So the program operators, the ability and the desire to provide, you know, consumers in Ireland with sustainable transport solutions other than just buying a car. I think they were really advanced. So whether it's scooters or electric bikes or you know, ride share, peer to peer, you know, all of the people we're talking to, even, you know, dealerships as a service, you know, car dealers looking at ways of utilizing their vehicles better to provide sustainable transport. But I have to say that I think the insurers need to come to the table.
Ed, very interesting talk. Just maybe a question for you around the changes in the digital space linked to the pandemic. So you've been in the digital space for some time. I guess, are you seeing some changes in demand as a result of lockdown and the impact that's had on people?
It's a brilliant question, Pat, and very relevant to us. So initially, if you take the two parts of our business, mobility and enterprise, the mobility business, we definitely saw an initial almost shock. So nobody was getting into car shares, nobody was getting into bike shares. But what we then saw almost immediately was the desire for people to look at scooters and e-bikes. So this essential workers moving around major cities and not wanting to use cars. We also saw a growth of cars as subscription. So people maybe didn't want to rent a car per they are, but actually non-car owners wanted a car per month. So we saw a bit of growth early. What we're now seeing is, you know, 6, 7, 8 months in, is that the car share programs are back to beyond the initial demand they had. So I think people now, given the investment, a lot of the PSAs of this world and the Freedom Moves of this world and the Waymos are investing in cleaning the vehicles, you know, operationally. I think people are seeing them as a real safe way of moving.
Ed, thank you so much for being with us today. We really enjoyed talking with you. We'll keep in touch. Hope to see you at our next event. Take care. Thanks.
I'm going to pass you on now to Pat O'Brien from Greenlight, who's going to introduce our next guests.
Good afternoon, I'm Pat O'Brien from Greenlight Re. I'm pleased to introduce Christie Downs from Handdii. Handdii are an Australian insurtech focused on simplifying property insurance claims, and they've gained great traction in both Australia and the US marketplace. Greenlight Re was pleased to invest in Handdii in 2019, and we're delighted to see the progress they've made in the last 12 months.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for that intro. And good morning, Christie in California.
Thanks, Alan, and thanks, Pat, for that lovely introduction.
It's lunchtime in Dublin, and you're on the sunny coasts of California. And do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, about how you ended up there?
Certainly, Alan. Yes, so my name's Christie, CEO and co-founder of Handdii. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, currently in California, where I have been for the last 12 months. We were thinking we were going to be able to fly backwards and forwards between Melbourne and California, but that hasn't been the case this year, of course, Alan, so I'm missing my Melbourne coffee.
So I know, did a little bit of background research. I know you're originally from the construction industry. So do you want to tell us, how did you get into insurance?
Yes, so actually I started in an administrative role at a small construction company that specialised in insurance repair work. At that time, the revenue was 12 million and we had 30 people, and I was one of the only females at the construction company, of course. I had a knack for sales and didn't understand why the team were sitting around and waiting for the work to come in. So jumped on the phones and was calling insurance companies and trying to understand their problems. I became the head of sales and an owner of the construction company, growing it from 12 million to 350 million in 10 years. So that was kind of my in construction, but also in the insurance space and understanding the pain points for insurance.
So given that you were in construction, so what were your observations about insurance at that time?
Well, in insurance, it's funny, contractors are often seen as the bottom of the value chain. There's all this investment by insurance into underwriting and into advertising. And yet when it comes to the time for a claim, the human that's actually coming to somebody's property is the contractor. And so it really didn't make sense to me why insurance didn't invest more in these humans that could actually make or break a claims experience. So, that's something we're really focused about. Handdii, I was sitting here in this high-vis vest. We believe contractors play a really important role in insurance.
Okay, so working there, obviously, that gave you the idea for Handdii. So maybe tell us, so how does Handdii work?
Okay, yeah, so Handdii has 3 interfaces, which mean that we're able to provide a real-time service to our customers. We connect the insurer and their customers straight to a network of pre-qualified contractors. And then our software guides the contractor through the process of inspecting the damage and building a scope of work, providing the customer with full transparency across the repair process, whilst also delivering real-time data back to the insurer. And actually, we're very proud to share that via Handdii, customers are being connected with contractors in under 36 seconds here in the US. And then we facilitate excess payment and have inbuilt chat and video capability. And then we're also very excited to announce that we've been accepted into the Guidewire Dev Connect program. So that will mean that straight through low touch, right touch claims for property repairs is now a reality.
Excellent. And when you started then, so what were the biggest obstacles to you starting in InsurTech?
Oh, initial funding for sure. Like there's no such thing as an MVP in insurance. You need a polished, scalable product day one. So trying to raise enough capital while not getting too diluted is really challenging. And then of course the sales process is super long in insurance. So, it's just, you'd have to say.
Yeah, so, and I see you're coming at us today from Los Angeles. So you moved to the US. So why was that you moved to the US?
So we secured a super fast moving insurance company called Hippo Home Insurance. And Hippo are a startup themselves. So they were operating at a much faster pace than the rest of the industry in terms of actually adopting and embracing an InsurTech like Handdii ourselves. And so we partnered with Hippo 12 months ago, and we are currently in Texas and California. We expanded across both of those states. And, Texas with 29 million people and California with 39 million people, there's plenty of property claims here for us to help out with.
Excellent. And I have to tell you, I did spot some of your social media, and it looked to me like going to the US, clearly you need a bit of help when you get there. So tell us a little bit about what the Australian government, in terms of their support for you when you moved to the US.
Oh, Alan, we have had phenomenal support from the Australian government. So first of all, via Austrade, we qualified for the Entrepreneurs Accelerating Commercialisation Grant. And then we also gained entry to Austrade Landing Pad program, which helps with startups' entry into the US. And then currently right now we're part of the Born Global program, which is more tailored and consultative to working with businesses on their growth strategy internationally. So the Australian government's been enormously helpful, and we found it very supportive to have independent, advisors. So rather than, your investors are wonderful and obviously meeting lots of prospective clients, but the government can provide that sort of independent
Yeah,
support.
I spotted the landing pad, and I have to say I particularly like that. It sounded really like a really nice support to have. So tell us a little bit about now. So what's next? So where are you at, and what's next for Handdii?
Yeah, well, we have a solid footing now in Australia with our key client Allianz, and then here in the US with Hippo. And so 2021 is all about expansion for us. So it's about growth. We're currently finalising our capital raise pre-Christmas. So yeah, we're ready to go.
Super. And I have to ask you, because you're probably wondering, all these Irish people listening to you on their lunch break. So tell me, what do you know about Ireland, if anything?
Oh, well, Alan, via Patrick O'Brien, of course, and the awesome team at Greenlight Re, we know Ireland has a great InsurTech community. No doubt you may also be experiencing problems with small property claims. And then other than that, I know I like your Guinness and your pubs, and I'd love to visit the countryside one day.
I really hope that happens, and that we get to meet up again at some point. And, you did mention, we're here today talking about InsurTech. So tell me, there's an evolving scene here. What tips and advice would you give to us about how we should go about encouraging and developing the InsurTech scene in Ireland?
Well, any assistance you can give startups, with events to connect them with investors and prospective clients, because it's a numbers game and it's so difficult to meet the right decision makers quick enough. And so with startup, it's a short amount of time to gain success, and the insurance industry is not helpful in that way. It's slow. So if the community can help to accelerate, those connections, then that would be, I'm sure, very powerful.
Okay, great. So questions coming in. I'm just seeing a question, and I'm going to hop over to Natalie Moran, who's got a question. If you want to put your camera on, Natalie.
Thanks a million, Alan. And thank you, Christie. That was really great. And it was brilliant to hear about Handdii's growth. And I guess on that, I kind of had a question on if you had any tips for InsurTech entrepreneurs that are here in Ireland and what they can do.
Absolutely, Natalie. Well, I think the important thing for us when we were setting about finding investors and insurance carriers is trying to identify the decision makers and then, who the influencers are that are going to help them make that decision, and really understanding their problems. So rather than coming into meetings and trying to, sell our wares, more about understanding, what's important to them, and then how could what Handdii's delivering really meet those needs.
Excellent, thank you. And I see another question. Jesus Anoma from Grant Thornton is with us. Could you just pop your camera on there, Jesus?
Hi, Alan. How are you doing? Thanks, Christie. That was very insightful. Really great story. Love the tip on replaying, just exchanging thoughts, and an idea is born, right? Also a great idea, leveraging the gig economy. My question for you, Christie, is that you touched on, in InsurTech, you really need a polished product. There's nothing like a minimum viable product for a carrier. So how do you went about is actually zooming on the features that you wanted for that minimum viable product, which is fully polished, right?
Yeah. So Jesus, really early, we found an insurance company that believed in the problem that we were solving. So before actually developing the product, had a PowerPoint deck, had an aligned vision for what Handdii could actually be solving, and then created the product along the way, sort of with feedback from the insurance carrier. So knowing that we were going to get a sale once the product was actually completed, so that all that investment was going to be worth it. So I would say that constant iteration and engagement with, your prospective client.
Great, thank you everybody. We're going to wrap it up there, Christie. Thank you so much for joining us and for getting up so early. And I hope you get some breakfast now. And I think you mentioned Vegemite earlier, so possibly a Vegemite sandwich for breakfast.
Yes, I've just run out of Vegemite, Alan. We're going to have to put our order in from Australia.
Thank you so much. And see you soon, I hope.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks for staying with us, everybody. I'm going to hand over now to Jerry Hassett, who's going to introduce us to Munich Re. Over to you, Jerry.
Thank you, Alan. I'm delighted to be joined today by Ross Mayne, CEO of one of Ireland's largest insurtechs, Munich Re Automated Solutions. Ross, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Alan. Great to be here.
Your business has been in the news, and a lot of people are very excited about seeing inward investment into Ireland. Tell me a little bit about Munich Re Automated Solutions How did it start, and what's the scale of the business?
Yeah, so this business is actually a business been around for quite some time in different forms. It was founded in 1987, believe it or not, Jerry, a long time ago. Yeah. But it's been through many lifetimes. I'd say a business that's pivoted a number of times. Originally, the business was a relatively small business focused on life insurance, back office automation solutions, for large intermediaries and large life companies. And really it did about 1 or 2 deals a year, remained relatively the same size over the long period, and was like that perfectly fine for a good number of years. In 1999, really it pivoted, and really since 2000, the focus has been on automated underwriting. So focusing in on the automated underwriting component, looking to simplify the underwriting process for consumers through brokers or at the point of sale, and making the whole industry more accessible, making the onboarding process more straightforward. So in fact, it massively reduced its scope, which was interesting, to a core component, and then looked to drive that out globally.
And when was the business acquired by Munich Re?
It was acquired in 2008, so 12 years ago now.
And that would that have been before or after the pivot you talked about, the narrowing down?
That was after the pivot. So at that time in 2008, the company was the largest in the market. So it was the global leader in automated underwriting. And that was important for Munich Re because its competitors had offerings. So Reinsurance Group of America, Swiss Re, the companies that we all know and love, all had competitive offerings in the market. Munich Re had an offering in the market called Magnum, but really the Magnum offering wasn't competitive. But the small Irish InsurTech was the global leader, winning opportunities globally, one after another. And through the acquisition of the company, which was called All Finance at the time, Munich Re became number one. Munich Re really saw synergies, I suppose.
And what's your background then? You were with the business before. When did you join?
Yeah, I joined the business in 2000, a long time ago. And my background is technology, so I'm a technologist, a degree in computer science from Trinity College. And my first 8 years I spent in the telecoms market, actually telecoms domain. So like a lot of people, worked in applied research in telecoms, distributed systems, network management in telecoms, international standards for 8 years. It was really the best postgraduate education, I think. It was a fantastic time.
So we're global leader. So what is it that Munich Re Automated Solutions does better than anybody else? What's your USP?
Well, the first thing that we did really well was focus, right? So when we started out in the space, we had very broad ambitions. And you want to do everything for everybody, right? And you want to sign big deals, and we did a few. We did a few big deals. I remember there was a $5 million deal in the US with in the US, and it went really well. But the problem is it's difficult to replicate that, right? And it's difficult to drive out the business and the profitability of the business. So we focused in on the automated underwriting component and tried to be the best of the best in that narrower space. I think that's the first thing that we did really well. The other thing that we clearly understood, and I think it may sound like it's not a big deal, but for us and for me, it is a big deal. We clearly understood what that value proposition was. That value proposition is about improving the process of the life insurance company in the eyes of the consumer, right? It's not about improving efficiency in the back office in the life company, automated underwriting. It's about making the online onboarding process more effective for the consumer. But what that does, it makes the industry more accessible to the consumer while properly assessing the risk of the applicant. And that's great for everybody, right? That grows the industry sustainably. And I think we understood that more clearly than anybody else. It's all about the usability.
So talk to me about your customer base. How many customers do you have and where are they?
So right now we have 120 insurance company customers in 48 countries. And it's growing pretty rapidly. The largest customer base in terms of numbers is in Asia right now. But globally, we're number one. And that's verified by the NMG, which is the main organization that surveys the reinsurance industry and technology associated with it. And we're individually number one in North America, in Europe, and in Asia. So we're clear leader.
So what have been the big challenges for you as a business in the last 3 or 5 years? What?
The last 3 or 5 years, maybe you recognize this, but it's the acceleration of the rate of change. The last 3 to 5 years have been hectic, absolutely hectic. We've had a massive drive to the cloud, with the insurance industry playing catch up to a large degree. Everybody else talks about the cloud, mobility, the internet. Sometimes you think these are new concepts that have only just been invented for the insurance industry. The industry is relatively risk averse, and I think the technology now is proven to the extent that they're ready to move. We've had data has become extremely important, far more important than it was before. There's a huge focus on data analytics, analyzing the data we've got, gathering more data, and of course regulation has come with that. And we look at GDPR in Europe, data protection laws, the difficulties of cross-border data, US, Europe, Asia, the introduction of new technologies. So when we look across the whole business domain, we look at the rate of change of the insurance industry, we look at deployment models like the cloud, we look at new technologies, we look at the impact of regulation. It's been a bit of a ride. It's continuous and it's accelerating.
And competing out of Ireland as a location globally, what works well and what doesn't work as well?
First of all, it's great to be in Ireland. I was born here. I like it here. It's fantastic from a business perspective and from a technology business perspective. It really is a fantastic place to be. There's a buzz right around Dublin in the tech scene. We've got a lot of multinationals, general tech multinationals here, building a fantastic human resource base. So the people are superb. You'll find whatever skills you want to find in Dublin, and they'll be state of the art and world class. And everyone's competing for them, but they're here, right? It's a lot different than being in a market where you want them, but you can't find them, right? They are here. So the resource and the skill base is massive, and the people here are fantastic. The team we have is super. From a business perspective, when you're looking on the outside and you're looking to develop a business, I guess one of the major challenges is we've got a very small domestic market. So really quickly and almost immediately, you have to be thinking internationally. We're an English-speaking country, which is fantastic. And if you follow our path was to look internationally to other English-speaking business markets with a similar regulatory regime to ours, yes. Right? So you go to the UK first. It's our closest, nearest, largest market. If you get referenceability in the UK, you can probably do business in Ireland.
Yeah.
Irish companies are probably quite reluctant to do business with small Irish companies until they get referenceability from the UK. For us, we went UK, Ireland, Hong Kong, Singapore, wow. Where we're quite successful, very accessible to English-speaking companies, okay. Regulatory regimes similar. And then we went to Australia. Australia, again, very accessible. And then you can go to the US if you're brave enough.
Okay. Wow. And you've been in the news, obviously, this capital injection, 16 million, I know, is the headline number over 3 years. So talk to me about that. Was that a difficult thing to achieve? Like, what's the challenge there in getting a shareholder to see the opportunity?
Well, so we have a very successful track record. So over the last few years, to give you a sense of it, we've paid over 40 million in dividends to the parent company. We've met all our business plans. We've massively exceeded our business plans, and that's over a 10-year period. So the first thing that we found useful was that we've developed a track record and we've got trust, right? But if you want to get this type of contribution, I suppose, from a group. In fact, it's not really a contribution. We're just not paying dividends anymore, Jerry. So we're reinvesting our own profits, which I suppose is a gift from a large corporate. But yeah, to get approval, I think what we needed to do if you're in the subsidiary and you're operating somewhere like Ireland, you need to be involved in the big strategic picture of the group, right? You need to look at the group level. You need to look at the strategic imperatives. You need to look at the options they have. There needs to be a picture painted of the future at the group level, and within it, you have to mark out your place. Right?
Okay. And what do you like? Where will that money go? Where will you invest that money? In the product, in the marketing, both?
So it's product, right? So we have 120 odd customers. We still have an open field. There's a lot of market out there that hasn't been exploited yet. We want to develop new offerings. We want to go cloud native. We want to develop a platform of additional services to sell to our existing customers and to open up new markets and new customers. What we find is that we need a broader offering to get to some of the smaller, medium-sized insurers. The big ones will take a best-of-breed component, but the rest want a much broader offering turnkey.
And last question for me, and there's a lot of people listening in here. If you were the country lead of a subsidiary of a large multinational insurer, and you were looking to get investment dollars for your data hub or your innovation hub, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Oh, you got to broaden your view, right? You got to look at the big picture for the corporate, right? And you've got to make the argument that says you're the best place for a piece of it.
There speaks a man who's got experience and success. Ross Mayne, thank you so much for telling us the Munich Re Automated Solutions story. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a million, Jerry. It was a pleasure.
I want to thank everybody here today, in particular a special word of thanks to Christie from Handdii, Ed from Trov, and also Ross from Munich Re. Your stories were fascinating. I'm sure everybody will agree with me. We really find them interesting and looking forward to seeing more of you here in Dublin in the future. And thanks to everybody again.
Thanks again, Moya, and also a big thank you to your team at Insurance Ireland, Natalie, Sarah Jane and Annie, who helped put together the event today. And thanks also to my co-collaborators, Susan from Irish Life, Ben from AXA, Hazels from Grant Thornton, Pat from Greenlight, Jerry and Ajay as well. And finally, thank you all for attending, and thanks to Dara from Upload for helping put together the event today. We'll see you soon. We hope to have another event in December, so watch your email inboxes. Look forward to receiving all your feedback, comments, etc. Stay safe, everybody.